I just got back home from like a 2-week excursion. First, there was an 8-day, 4,010 mile road trip. You heard that correctly, 4,010 miles going all up and down the West Coast. Then I came home, I was home for a day. Then I flew to Atlanta where I was a camera operator on Star Trek. As much fun as the road trip was, I gotta be honest, I got sleep, nutrition, movement. So this got me thinking, if your diet, nutrition, and sleep are all crap, and you could only improve one, which is the best one to improve? That's what we're gonna talk about today. That's new. Way to christen it, Henry. Way to christen the new tree. This is not going to be a hard science data-backed video. This is more or less my opinion as somebody who's been a personal trainer for 20 years and has worked with literally thousands of clients, and what I see from them and in my own life. Let's start with nutrition, because it's probably the most confusing out of the three. If you think about what I had just now, I guarantee you there are going to be comments in this video saying why I shouldn't be eating what I'm eating. Just this meal right here, you could argue in probably 8 different ways why this isn't a good meal. There's too much protein. You shouldn't have carbs in the morning. You shouldn't be taking like whey protein. You shouldn't be taking whey protein with artificial sweeteners, yada, yada, yada. Maybe eggs are bad for you. They're carcinogenic. They cause cancer. The list goes on and on. But at the end of the day, this works for me, and it works really well. I think there is better nutrition than others. Eating whole foods is probably better than processed foods. But man, it's really hard to boil down what good is and isn't. Have you ever thought about food and how expensive it is to eat healthy? These delicious pasture-raised eggs are like 13 bucks for a carton, maybe even more. And if you're somebody that isn't eating the most nutritious foods and are being told to eat whole, foods all the time, whole organic foods, you might not be able to. You might not be able to afford it. There are some parts of this country in the United States where it's almost impossible to get whole organic foods. Like if you're living like in the rougher parts of Philadelphia, because I used to live there for a spell, it was almost impossible to get healthy, nutritious food. And so if you spend all day, every day, freaking out and stressing about how you're supposed to eat better when you physically can't even find that food, that's really freaking scary and frustrating. And it's for those reasons why I think nutrition isn't your #1 priority. I think all of you know just how anal I am about my sleep. I have spent thousands and thousands of dollars on products that can help me sleep better. And because of the concussions I have, sleep is even more important than it was 5-6 years ago. I still think it's a tier below movement. And the reason I say this is because you can more or less get by with meh quality sleep. Like you can still live a pretty fulfilling life and perform pretty well with meh average type sleep. Over the last 2 weeks, I got absolute shit for sleep. Now for the road trip, it wasn't that necessary. I was going to bed super late because I would stay out past sunset to get like the best quality light. And then I would wake up at 4 a.m., 5 a.m. to go chase a sunrise that was 2 hours away. And I did just fine. But when I got to Atlanta, I had to work 12-hour days. We were in bed super late, 2 to 3 hours later than I would normally go to bed, and I was up at the same time. I was getting by on 4 or 5 hours. However, I was in much more demanding situations. I'm operating a camera on a shoot that cost several hundreds of thousands of dollars to make. If you make one mistake, it could be cataclysmic. Accidentally formatting a card would have basically ended my career. I'm going on shit sleep. My brain is barely functioning, but I didn't make any mistakes. The production was never halted because of me. I was never a hindrance. I could help out and actually had a really good attitude about the whole thing and kind of crushed it despite only having 4 or 5 hours of sleep per night. And maybe one thing you didn't think about is you can actually crush your sleep. You can have the best night's sleep of your life and still wake up with a shitty recovery. That's my sleep from last night. I got a lot of sleep. Where is it? Right there. You see that? I got a lot of sleep. But look at that recovery. 12% recovery, right? So it's possible to have wonderful, awesome, amazing sleep and still wake up with shitty recovery. This is a swampy, muddy mess. I'm doing a short but very steep hike to Lake Mary at the Brighton Ski Resort. I just realized that I hiked to the wrong lake. I couldn't figure out why it looked so different than the last time I was here, and that's because I'm not at the place I thought I was, but it's still really pretty. Here's why I think movement is the most important thing to focus on if you're struggling with all three things: nutrition, sleep, and exercise. Number one, a rolling stone gathers no moss. You've probably heard this saying, and you've heard it because, well, it's true. Sedentary lifestyles are rough. And sedentary doesn't refer to poor nutrition or poor sleep, it refers to the lack of activity. People who are sedentary tend to get injured more frequently, and injuries also keep you from moving, so it's a pretty nasty cycle. Probably the best thing about exercise, though, is it can be free, right? You don't have to spend any more money to get better at it. Maybe you were thinking, I have to go to the gym. You don't. I just went on a very short but very good little hike. Like, my heart rate got up to 150, 160, and it stayed there for the entire 45 minutes. And it'll go back up, but not as high, probably 120 on the way back down. And to make it more challenging, I packed a whole bunch of useless camera gear. I'm probably only using half of it, but the point was to load a ton of weight on my back and make that hike a little more challenging. And if you don't have access to mountains like I do, and you don't have a bag, just go for a walk. You can walk your dog for 45 minutes or an hour. Your dog's gonna love it, and it will do wonders for your resting blood glucose levels, your joints. Just getting the sunlight and being outside will do wonders for your mental health as well. And if you feel so inclined, kind of like me, you can start running. And we all know how good running can be for your cardiovascular system. You don't have to go crazy. You don't have to do a marathon, but a mile or two, a few days a week will do you wonders. I know plenty of people that don't get great sleep because they're inactive. And I know a ton of people who are extremely active and get phenomenal sleep. And that's because when you're exhausted from working out and moving, it's easier to fall asleep and stay asleep longer. Check out Michael Easter's book, The Comfort Crisis. He goes into this subject in detail, and it's pretty cool. There's a saying, you can't outwork a garbage diet. And I would probably agree with that. But I will say, you can probably negate a mediocre diet. Okay, it's actually really freaking cold up here. And a storm is coming in. I can see it coming over the tops of the mountains, and it's probably gonna start to snow. And I was thinking that I was just gonna go to Tanner Park and take Henry for a small little walk, and I decided to
call an audible and come out here and go for a hike, and I am horribly underprepared. So I'm gonna get back to the car before this gets shitty. Oh shit, it is snowing. I hope you found it valuable, and if you did, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe. We're doing a giveaway right now. It's on this video up here. And yeah, I guess I'll catch you later. Peace.